All right, so get this. We're going to look at some AI research, and it's pretty wild. Like, imagine AI that can learn to play a game, right?
Right.
But then it can actually redesign its own virtual body, in the game to win. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like super interesting stuff.
And that's what we're diving into today with this paper. It's called Reinforcement Learning for Improving Agent Design. And it's all about how these researchers are letting AI tinker with their forms, like in simulations, to like just totally boost their performance. So yeah, get ready for some surprises, because we're going to like unpack how this all works and what it could mean, for the future.
What's really fascinating here is that this research, it kind of builds on this concept called embodied cognition.
Okay, I've heard that term before, but can you remind me what embodied cognition actually means?
Sure. So embodied cognition is like this idea that an organism's cognitive abilities are, they're like really deeply connected to its physical body.
Yeah.
So it's not just the brain working in isolation, but our bodies and how we interact with the world. It like plays this big role in, shaping how we think and learn.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like how athletes, how they train both their bodies and minds to reach peak performance, right?
Exactly. They're not just building muscle, they're refining their movements and reactions and stuff.
Yeah. It's that mind-body connection.
Yeah, totally. And so this research, it takes that whole concept and, it applies it to AI. What if instead of giving an AI like a fixed body in a simulation, we let it modify its design as it like learns?
Whoa. That's pretty mind-blowing. How does that even work?
Well, we need to talk about reinforcement learning a bit, just to kind of set the scene.
Okay, let's do it. Reinforcement learning.
So in typical reinforcement learning, you've got this AI agent, and it's interacting with this virtual environment.
Mm-hmm.
So the AI takes actions, and then based on like what it does, it gets, rewards or penalties.
Ah, I see. It's like rewards and punishments shaping its behavior.
Right, exactly. Think of it like training a dog. Good behavior, you get a treat. Bad behavior, no treat. So over time, the AI, it learns to maximize its rewards, right? By figuring out the best, the best moves to make.
Okay, that makes sense. But now we're adding this extra layer where it can actually change its body.
Exactly. So in this research, the AI is given control over like certain parameters, right?
Yeah.
That actually define its body, within the simulation.
Okay, so what kind of parameters are we talking about? Like if it's a robot, can it change its shape?
Yeah, so for example, if it's like a virtual robot with legs, the AI could like change things like, leg length, the width, the joint placement.
So it's learning to play the game, but also redesigning itself at the same time. Whoa. So they're not just learning like strategies, they're learning actual design principles. That's so cool.
Right. And the results of these experiments, they're pretty amazing. One of the simulations they used was this four-legged virtual robot they called the ant. And the goal was for the ant to like navigate this terrain as quickly as possible.
Okay, so what happened? Did the AI like mess up its body completely?
No, not at all. It actually learned to make its legs longer and thinner, which actually made it much faster.
Makes sense. Longer, thinner legs, better for speed. But wait, it gets even weirder, right?
Yep.
I remember something about asymmetry.
Yeah, you got it. One of the most surprising things they found was that the AI didn't just make the legs long and thin. It actually like broke symmetry. So it had bigger rear legs than front legs.
No way. So hold on. This AI, just through trial and error, it stumbled upon a design that we see in like real living things. That's incredible.
Exactly. It's like, it highlights how this research isn't just about AI playing games better. It's about discovering, fundamental design stuff, like principles of optimization that could be used for, way more than just games.
Okay. This is officially blowing my mind. So the ant experiment, that was about speed. But they also, they tested this with like walking robots, right? The bipedal walker simulations.
Yes. They had two versions of that simulation, a basic one and then a harder one with like obstacles and hills. So the goal was for the AI to learn how to, walk and navigate in these different environments.
So did it manage to stay upright at least?
In the basic version, yeah, it learned this bouncy, springy kind of gait that worked pretty well. But in the harder version, things got a lot more interesting. It had to like adapt to a way more complex environment.
So what did it do? Did it like grow extra legs or something?
It actually developed specialized legs. So instead of all the legs being, the same, it started to make them different, with some legs being more for like sensing the environment and others for like keeping it stable.
So it's like it figured out that it needed different tools for different jobs. Wow. It's not just moving, it's learning to really understand its environment.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is it solved this hardcore walking challenge way faster by changing its body than when it had that fixed symmetrical design.
All right, this is seriously impressive. But let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about speed, navigating, but what about efficiency? In the real world, resources are limited.
That's a great point. And the researchers, they actually looked at that too. They wanted to see if they could, encourage the AI to not just be good at the task, but also be efficient with its design. So they changed the reward system a bit.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How did they reward it for being efficient?
They started giving the AI rewards for having smaller leg area. This was meant to simulate the idea of using less material, saving costs in a real world design.
They were making the AI think like a minimalist designer, right?
Yeah.
Get the job done, but use as little material as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And the results were pretty surprising. In the easy version of the bipedal walker, the AI was able to make its legs super tiny, like the absolute minimum, but it could still walk fine.
Wow, that's really efficient.
Yeah.
But what about that harder version? With all the obstacles, it probably needed those bigger, specialized legs, right?
You'd think so, but the AI, it found this clever way around that. Instead of shrinking both the length and the width, it made the legs super thin, but a bit longer.
Oh, so it found like a compromise. It's starting to think like an engineer, finding that balance between working well and not using too many resources. This is all really amazing, It makes you wonder, what else could AI design if we, let it experiment like this?
It really does open up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. This has been an incredible deep dive so far. I mean, we've seen how AI can learn to modify its own body, get better at these virtual tasks. And it's not just random changes. It's finding real design principles just like that. But this can't just be about, virtual robots in games, right? There's got to be some bigger implications for the real world.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've seen how AI can be this awesome virtual designer, right? But what I'm really curious about is the real world stuff. What can we actually do with this, in the real world? Where could we use it?
Yeah, the possibilities are they're pretty exciting. One area that the researchers talked about was, design assistance.
Okay, design assistance. Yeah, what does that even look like? Can you give me an example?
So imagine AI working with engineers, architects, helping them to design buildings, systems, whatever, but not just making them work, but making them the best they can be.
So it's like an AI partner, right? Helping to come up with ideas, figuring out what works best, suggesting improvements, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It could help you find the design that, uses the least amount of material or can handle crazy weather or is super energy efficient, all that while, still working in the real world with all its limitations.
It's pretty amazing. It's like having a super powered design consultant.
Yeah.
That can just, check out thousands of possibilities super fast.
Right. And it goes way beyond just buildings and bridges. This tech could totally change things for robots, aerospace, even just the stuff we use every day.
I can see it now. AI helping to make lighter, more agile robots, for search and rescue. Mm-hmm. Or designing airplanes that use way less fuel.
Exactly. And it's not just about, making existing stuff better. This AI could help us come up with completely new ideas, stuff we wouldn't have even thought of.
Okay, so design assistance, that's huge. But the paper also mentioned game development. And, being a gamer myself, I'm really interested in that.
Oh, yeah. Well, get ready because this tech could make some seriously awesome video game characters.
Okay. I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Imagine characters that aren't just, programmed with certain skills, but can actually change their bodies and what they can do as they play.
Wait, so they could evolve, based on what happens in the game and the choices the player makes.
Exactly. It would make games way more dynamic. The player's actions could literally shape how the characters, how they change and develop.
That would be so cool. It would make games way more immersive. You'd never know what to expect.
And it wouldn't just be how they look. The AI could change their skills, how they think, even their personalities, based on what happens to them.
Wow, that would be a game changer. No two games would be the same. It'd be like those games where your choices matter, but on a whole other level.
It's kind of blurring the lines between design, evolution, and, just plain fun.
This whole thing, AI learning morphology, it's mind-blowing. It makes you think about, what intelligence even is. I mean, if AI can change itself to reach a goal, Isn't that like a kind of intelligence?
That's a big question, one that philosophers and scientists are still figuring out. Where does design stop and evolution begin? What makes something truly intelligent? Those are tough questions, and the answers might change as we learn more.
Yeah, it's exciting and a little scary at the same time. But for now, I'm just impressed with what these researchers have done. They've shown us that AI can do way more than we thought.
It's amazing, right? It shows how creative humans are, how we can build tools that help us understand the world in completely new ways.
This is why I love these deep dives. They always go like way beyond the original topic,
It's all about making connections, seeing the bigger picture. And speaking of that, I think it's time we move on to the final part of our deep dive. We'll talk about, what this research could mean for the future.
Okay, I'm ready for it. Let's do it. All right, so we've talked about AI learning to, walk, run, design its own body, even be super efficient with resources. But I think the biggest thing here is, how this could change the real world. Like, that's the mind-blowing part.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest questions is what happens when we take all this stuff, out of the computer and put it into real robots?
Oh, now we're talking like real sci-fi stuff, right? Robots that can not only do things, but can change their bodies to get even better at it.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine robots, working in disaster zones, exploring dangerous places. Instead of being limited by how they were built, they could keep evolving and changing to, deal with whatever they find.
So they could start with like a basic design, and then through trial and error, they figure out how to change their bodies to, move through rubble, climb stuff, fit into small spaces, all that.
Exactly. It'd be like those sci-fi movies where robots get smarter and more capable over time, adapting to their environment.
It's a cool idea, but gotta admit, it's kind of freaky too, right? Oh. If we make robots that can redesign themselves, how do we make sure they, stay under control?
That's a really good point. And it's something, that AI researchers are thinking hard about. Like any powerful technology, we gotta be careful,
Yeah.
Think about the risks and figure out how to use it safely and responsibly.
Yeah, it's not just about like how cool the tech is. It's about having, serious conversations about how to make sure it's used for good.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation that everyone needs to be part of, not just scientists,
Yeah.
Ethicists, policymakers, regular people, everyone. We got to work together to make sure these technologies are used the right way.
This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening. I mean, it's amazing to think we're creating machines that can like learn, adapt, even evolve, things that we thought only living things could do.
It's amazing what humans can do, our curiosity, our drive to explore. And who knows, maybe by studying AI, we'll understand our own intelligence better too.
Yeah, maybe. One thing's for sure, this is just the beginning. We're going to be hearing a lot more about AI learning morphology, in the future.
Definitely. It's a field with huge potential, and it's something we need to pay attention to.
So for our listener, we've seen how AI can learn to design and adapt its own body in like virtual worlds. And we've talked about what it could mean to bring that into the real world, right?
It's a journey that makes us ask some big questions about, intelligence, evolution, how we'll interact with technology in the future.
And like always, keep thinking about these things, keep asking questions, help shape the conversation about how we create a future where, where AI helps everyone. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.